Thank you for staying through to this program devoted to football news in Africa and around the world. You are, of course, watching Football Planet on Africanews, a program somehow disrupted by the COVID-19 epidemic and its unfortunate consequences for football. Now it's time for the headlines. Tension surrounding the election of the president of the Ivorian Football Federation. The former president of the body, Jacques Anouma, is trying to calm things down. The former boss of the IFF calls for a debate to be dispassionate for the sake of Ivorian football. CAF is putting pressure on its members. The Confederation of African Football has set an ultimatum for the national authority to decide whether or not to continue their competition. The objective is to better prepare for the continuation of the interclass and next season in a climate of uncertainty. And in Guinea, the Pro League ends the season, a decision that could have an impact on the African campaign of Horoya AC, which is due to play in the semi-final of the CAF Cup Nations. The team's coach, Lamine Ndiaye, will tell us what he thinks about this in the program. Don't leave. We'll be back after this short break. Welcome to the show. He has been passionate about the debate in Côte d'Ivoire for several months. The election of the future president of the Football Federation is more decisive than ever. The supporters of the three candidate, Dede Drogba, Sori Diabete, and Yassine Dirassa Diallo, are fighting a fierce battle through the media. A worrying tension for the former president of the body, Jacques Anouma, who came out of this shelf on Friday to call members to demand for attention. Details with Serge Kofi and Nyasha Mutizwa.
As the race to the Ivorian Football Federation presidency heats up, the association's former president has stepped up to try and ease tensions. In a special message, Jacques Anouma, the former head of the federal body IFF, drew everyone's attention to the need for peaceful elections. He reminded people that sport in general and football in particular rests on the noble value of fair play. The CAF and FIFA Special Envoy also asked his counterparts not to lose sight of this whilst engaging in unnecessary quarrels. He concluded by calling for solidarity and fraternity. The press release by Jacques Anouma, an influential figure in Ivorian football, comes as exchanges on social media become increasingly toxic in the run-up to the election. This may be due in part to the candidacy of the emblematic former captain of the Elephants of Côte d'Ivoire, Didier Drogba, who some believe does not deserve to direct the FIF. Drogba is running against Sori Diabate and Yassine Idriss Diallo, all of whom have been subject to insults and intimidation. The election, initially scheduled for May 16, is now postponed to a later date due to the coronavirus pandemic.
We hope that the release of Jacques Anouma and the postponement of the election will calm things a little. We now move on to this ultimatum from CAF to its federation members. The continental body has given the national authorities until May 5th to take a decision on the continuation of their national competitions. Most of them stopped since March because of the COVID-19 pandemic. A stroke of pressure, it says, to enable it to schedule the resumption of interclub competition and also to better plan next season. Details with Serge Marco Nkombo and Claudia Nsono.
The Confederation of African Football has given member federations 8 days to inform them of the fate of the 2019-2020 season of national competitions. The season took an unprecedented break in March, following strict measures imposed by various African countries to contain the novel coronavirus. In a letter addressed to its member associations on April 26th, CAF requested to know how they are planning to end the campaign. The Confederation of African Football also said they will communicate regarding the interclub competitions, but will first have to monitor the situation. All federations therefore have until the 5th of May to submit their roadmaps to the continent's football governing body. The Ahmad-led Confederation of African Football is banking on the information to finalize plans for the 2021 interclub competitions. It should be recalled that CAF expects these interclub competitions to end in August. For the time being, football is only played on the field of conjecture due to the current health crisis.
A health crisis that makes the rest of the season especially uncertain, but some nations have already decided to put an end to their championship. This is the case of Guinea, where the Professional Football League has decided to stop everything for good. An announcement by its president quoted by several media, the decision should be made official this week. Above all, a decision will have to be made on the AC Horoya-dominated ranking. On the line with us is Coach Lamine Ndiaye. Thank you for this interview, Coach. While waiting for the official announcement of the end of your championship, let's talk about the semi-finals of the CAF Cup that you are supposed to play if the situation allows it. But with the prospect of the resumption, is the final of the championship not likely to harm you?
Mais ça change rien. De toute façon, dans l'état actuel des choses, on ne peut
It
rien
doesn't
faire.
change anything. In any case, as things stand,
Là, on
there's
attend,
nothing we
on
can
prie
do.
simplement pour que cette pandémie-là disparaisse, pour qu'on puisse reprendre
We are
nos
waiting
activités.
and praying that this pandemic
Mais
will
autrement,
disappear so that we
on
can
a-
resume our activities.
On peut rien faire.
But otherwise, there is nothing that we
On
can
peut
do.
rien faire. Et puis, c'est général.
And then
C'est
it's
généralisé.
widespread.
Aujourd'hui, il y a
Today,
aucun
there is no
pays,
country
enfin, il y
or
a
very
très
few
peu de
countries
pays,
where we
en tout
play
cas,
football.
où on joue au football. Donc, tu peux même pas quitter la Guinée pour
So
aller
you can't
te
even leave
réfugier quelque
Guinea to
part,
take
parce que
refuge
aussi
somewhere
les
because
frontières
the
sont
borders
fermées.
are closed too.
Donc, attendre
So,
notre mal,
waiting for our pain, and then
voilà, c'est une
it's an
équation
equation
à,
with many unknowns.
plusieurs inconnus. Hein.
As a coach, it's not easy to deal with a situation like that, I imagine. How do you make sure your players stick to individual training programs?
Ben, vous savez, c'est les premiers qui sont
You know,
impactés.
it's
hein,
the first
parce
ones
qu'un
who are
joueur de foot,
impacted because
ce qu'il
a
aime,
football
c'est de
player,
jouer.
what he
Donc,
likes is to
forcément,
play.
ils vont s'entretenir, même les plus
This is the
feignants,
case for
ils
any
vont quand
football
même de
player.
temps en temps
So,
se
of
remuer,
course,
quoi.
they're going to talk
Donc,
to each other.
pour ça,
Even the bleeding
les échos
ones.
qu'on a, et puis de
They're
temps
still
en
going to
temps,
stare
on
from time to
au bout
time.
du fil. C'est les plus
And that's
pressés,
why
en
we
tout cas,
get the
à reprendre
echoes
le
that we
chemin,
get.
du foot,
And then from time
parce
to time,
que,
we get them
voilà,
on the
ça fait trop
phone.
longtemps que
They're in the
certains sont
greatest
conscients
hurry to
que,
get back into football because it's been
on
too
ne sait pas
long.
si tout le monde, mais je
Some
pense
of
que
them
la
are
majeure
dedicated.
partie
We don't know if
font
everyone's
ce
doing
qu'il
the
faut,
right
hein.
thing,
Même les
but most
blessés,
of them are doing
on
the
va
right thing,
récupérer
even the
quand même
injured
deux
ones.
bons joueurs,
But
certainement,
we'll still get two
à
good
la
players
reprise,
back,
parce que ce soit
certainly,
Mandela, que
when
ce
the game
soit
starts
Bafour.
again.
Mandela
Because
ne
it's
s'est jamais
Mandela,
entraîné
it's
avec
Bafour.
moi depuis que je suis
Mandela
là, et
hasn't trained with
Bafour
me
aussi a
since I've
fait un
been
match,
here.
je crois, ou un match et
And
demi.
Bafour also played a
Bon,
match.
c'est, en
I
tout cas,
think
pour moi,
a match and a half. Anyway,
un
it's a pleasure
plaisir
for
de
me
les
to meet with them
retrouver
again when it's possible.
quand ce sera possible.
So it's been about 6 months since you arrived in Guinea. What impression has local football left on you?
Bon, c'est le football guinéen, tout le monde sait, il y a la qualité.
As
Techniquement,
everyone
les joueurs
knows,
sont quand
Guinean
même
football is
bien
good.
armés. Et puis, voilà,
Technically, the
c'est
players are
organisé
well armed
aussi.
and it's
Donc,
organized.
les matchs
The
de
championship
championnat,
matches are hard
comment
fought.
discuter, hein,
Even
même
when you
quand
play the
tu joues la
last team in
dernière
the
équipe au
standings,
classement, ben, il faut s'arracher pour l'emporter. Donc,
you really
voilà,
have to
c'est un
fight
football
hard.
de qualité et je pense que
So that's it. It's quality
si les
football.
équipes avaient un peu plus de
And I think
moyens,
if the teams have had a
ce
little more
serait
money,
aussi une bonne
that
chose.
would be
Tous
also
les
very
dirigeants
good.
qui sont à la tête de ces équipes-là, ils font beaucoup d'efforts pour
All the managers who are
améliorer
at
la
the
qualité
helms
de leur,
of these
de leur
teams
équipe.
are making a lot of
Donc,
efforts to
dans
improve
les
the
années à
quality.
venir, peut-être,
So in the years to
probablement,
come,
c'est
it will
les
probably
sociétés
be
ou
the
c'est les
companies or
dirigeants de
company
sociétés
managers
qui vont
who will
peut-être
perhaps
être à
be
la
at the
tête
head
de
of these
ces
clubs.
clubs-là. Et ça ne peut que, en tout cas,
And
être
that can only be beneficial for
bénéfique
football
pour
because
le
the
football, parce
competition
que
will
la
be much tougher.
concurrence sera encore beaucoup plus rude, quoi.
Thank you, Lamine Ndiaye, and wishing you a good luck in the continuation of your adventure in Guinea and on the continental level.
Thank
Merci,
you. Thank
merci
you very
beaucoup.
much.
Lamine Ndiaye, coach of Guinea's AC Horoya, former national coach of Senegal, a technician with an exceptional record, won Champions League, 2 CAF Super Cups, finals of the Club World Cup with Tipe Mazembe, a club which won 2 DRC Championship, 5 champions, and 2 Cameroon Cups with Cotton Sport de Goura, which he also led to the final of the CAF Cup, a career that deserves all respect. Thank you once again. Let's now look back at AFCON 2021 and increasing calls to postpone the tournament scheduled for January 9 to February 6 after Senegal's El Hadji Diouf. It is the turn of the 2019 African champion, Algeria's Adlien Guadora, and a little before him, Samuel Eto'o, one of the ambassadors of the African Cup of Nations, to plead for a postponement of the tournament. Given the current situation, can CAF really ignore these calls? Ahmed Nkenga and Jeribambi.
The longer the health crisis persists, the darker the horizon becomes for sports in Africa, particularly as no one knows when the scourge of the coronavirus pandemic will end. And even if Africa is the continent that is feeling the consequences of the pandemic the least, it is virtually alone in not having decided the fate of its flagship tournament, the African Cup of Nations CAN. But the current circumstances seem to point for a postponement of the event scheduled for 8 months from now in Cameroon. First, there is the problem of the qualifiers, then the health risk, which worries Samuel Eto'o, one of the eminent ambassadors of the competition. In an interview with France 24, the former Cameroonian international said he could not see the president of CAF risking the health of football lovers for an African Cup of Nations. The four-time African Player of the Year joins Algeria's Adlien Guadora and former Senegal star El Hadji Diouf in calling for a postponement. And if the continental body has not yet responded to these calls, it does not rule out the possibility that it is more likely at the moment.
In any case, time is against CAF, and if the situation persists, we see the authority badly maintaining the organization of this prestigious meeting early next year. And it's to be continued. And this is where this program comes to an end, but the news continues on Africanews and Africanews.com. Many thanks to the technical team and the production team. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.